Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, there she blows. Barrel Aged Narwhal is an 11.9% bourbon barrel aged stout from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company in Chico, California. Get your harpoons ready, folks. This one may be a bumpy ride. Believe it or not, this is going to be my first time trying Barrel Aged Narwhal or even the straight up Imperial Stout. I haven't tried either of those, but that's what this whole channel's about, right? First impressions. Now, the 2019 edition marks the first time that Sierra Nevada has canned this beer, which I hope means greater availability. I can tell you that while I was probably in the right place at the right time, I was able to snag a full 4-pack of this, and I wasn't limited to that whole, one bottle per customer rule like I probably would have in the past in this area. And, what I want to start doing more this year is trying beer like this that maybe I didn't try in the past because it wasn't necessarily Michigan, but it still comes to our market and it's still something we can get. But Sean, you're probably asking, how does it taste? Stop talking and tell us all about it. Well, let's take a look at the can here. We'll get it in a glass and we'll find out. Fun fact, the narwhal's tusk is actually a huge canine tooth, and some medieval Europeans believed the tusks to be horns from unicorns. The unicorn of the sea, right? That's probably how I got that name. So let's take a look at the can here. This is a really, really nice looking can. I mean, I say that a lot about these matte black kind of cans. I'm a big fan of the color black. I love the color black, but I also love other colors. But I think black, if used properly in negative space, can really be striking. And this one is one of those kind of can designs. So on the top here, we'll start at the top. It says family owned, operated, and argued over. And then it says Barrel Aged Narwhal Imperial Stout from Sierra Nevada, which was established in 1980. 1 pint, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, Chico, California, and Mills River, North Carolina. And then it says all that stuff. That's all the words. But then the actual thing that's going on in here is this narwhal that's under the water. It's got, its huge horns, spiral, all that detail is drawn on here. And then behind that is like a ship's mast. So it's like it's going underneath the ship. And you can see the mast and all the ropes and everything. And they have these huge harpoons that are sticking out on either side. Just a really cool looking label. Like, I'm not a tattoo guy. I don't have tattoos. But this would be a pretty cool tattoo, right? So hopefully I like the beer. So anyways, on the back it says Sierra Nevada. Again, established in 1980. Barrel Aged Narwhal Imperial Stout. Deep in our barrel room, out of light's reach, our legendary Narwhal Imperial Stout rests in bourbon barrels for nearly a year. After aging, it emerges anew, rich with notes of oak, vanilla, and coconut layered into the stout's malt flavors of dark chocolate and espresso. Enjoy this beast of a beer. Alcohol 11.9% by volume, 16 fluid ounces. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. And this was packaged on December 20th, 2019. So that's about 2 months, almost 2 months to the day that I'm recording this. I'm going to grab one of these kind of glasses. It's a bit of a large snifter. We're going to go ahead and crack this open. And we'll get a nose out of the can first off. Wow, yeah, I smell a lot of bourbon, a lot of sweet kind of bourbony aroma in there. Not getting any kind of espresso, coffee, any of that stuff, but I'm getting a lot of the kind of bourbon aroma. Smells like a kind of a typical bourbon barrel-aged stout, Imperial Stout. Let's go ahead and pour this. Really dark out of the can. Not super duper dark, like I can see through it. I can see through it as it's pouring into the glass here. And that is forming a really nice head there. I always love when I finish the pour and the bubbles just rush up to the top. You can see that. It's about 2 fingers ahead. Oh, I'm getting a chocolate note, big chocolate note, just kind of wafting off of here. So that the head is a coffee colored head, dark tan, a little, maybe like a brownish colored head. And the bubbles are really nice, compact, a little bit of larger ones on the cross section. It's just got a really nice looking head on this. Again, it's dissipating a little quickly, but it's holding on. It's doing its best to hold on. Let's go ahead and hold this up to the light. That is really dark. Again, the only color I see besides just darkness is across the bulb of this. It's got a crimsony, kind of brownish colored, really light layer there on the bottom. Totally opaque. No seeing through this. This could be, you could put an eye chart behind this and I would be legally blind. Let's go ahead and put this up and hold it to a nose here. So I was getting a lot of chocolate notes just kind of wafting off the top, but the nose on this straight up out of the glass is a lot of kind of bourbon. I'm getting a little bit of that kind of barrel characteristic, a little bit of vanilla kind of aroma. I can see getting like a really kind of cocoa-y, dark, maybe even dark chocolatey kind of aroma out of this as well. So let's go ahead and cut to the chase. Let's go ahead and take a drink. Cheers. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That has a really nice, heavy, thick kind of mouthfeel, borderline syrupy, almost syrupy. And that's awesome to see because having so many of these barrel-aged stouts, bourbon barrel-aged stouts, the mouthfeel has been so thin. And when you compare something with a thinner mouthfeel like that to something like this, it feels like all those other thin mouthfeel beers have been cutting corners, and it makes you really appreciate all the work that went into something like this. Let's get another taste. Just kind of rich, creamy, sweetness up front. I'm getting this kind of bourbony flavor up front. A lot of the barrel comes through right there. But I'm also, with that bourbony sweetness, that's where I'm getting a bit of this cocoa. I'm sorry, a bit of this coconut flavor that comes through there. And then it's just multi-layered. There's all these layers. So first off, I'm going to talk about the opening taste. That's where I'm getting that bourbon flavor. That's where this coconut kind of flavor comes through, like a toasted coconut flavor comes through. Then, wow. All right, another taste. There's a bit of this bitterness that comes through on the swallow, but then on the swallow, as it hits the back of your tongue, that's when this really strong chocolate note comes through. On the aftertaste, I'm picking up on like there's a sweet chocolate characteristic, but there's also a dark chocolate characteristic, and they kind of butt heads together. There's two different sides playing here, like two different factions of this chocolate flavor coming through. I think the bitterness that I'm picking up on the swallow is this really coffee infused kind of flavor, but then it has this, it hits another wave of sweetness, and that's where this kind of milky chocolate or a lighter dark chocolate kind of flavor comes through. And then on the finish after that is this really dark, super dark, like 90% cocoa kind of sugar or cocoa chocolate kind of flavor comes through. And it's just really this dark chocolate flavor that kind of sits in the back. And that's what you're left with. That's like the last thought, that kind of the last taste, the last flavor that kind of hits your tongue. And that's what sits on the aftertaste. And that is a pretty monumental kind of thing, because what happens sometimes, even at 10% bourbon barrel aged beers, you can get that boozy characteristic, or you can taste all that alcohol. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this doesn't taste like it's a heavy kind of beer. I can tell you that I would probably be able to say, oh yeah, this is easily 8-9%, but I'm not picking up on any kind of booziness. I'm not picking up on anything that would make me think like, oh, this has been barrel aged for this X amount of time. Again, 11.9%. That's almost 12% in one can of beer. That's pretty good. But I've never had this. Again, this is first impression. I am a huge fan of this. This is something where I would go back and I would try other years of it. And now it kind of makes me sad that I didn't have just a regular Narwhal Imperial Stout to be able to compare the two against each other, because I've never had the regular Narwhal. I think maybe I do pick up on a little bit of a booziness if I take like that sip like I just took, and I'm thinking about it and I'm really consciously trying to pick up a bit of a booziness. I pick up a little bit more now that I think about it, but it's not anything that's overpowering. There's no burn. There's nothing that really says like, oh, this is super boozy. Like, again, I would still think this is probably, if I knew that it was barrel aged, I would still probably think that it was, you know, upper 9s, lower 10s. Like, I'm not thinking 12% or nearly 12%. So yeah, I mean, just to kind of recap everything, you get that really nice barrel characteristic. You get that toasted coconut, that bourbon flavor up front. You get this kind of espresso coffee kind of flavor in the middle on the swallow. And then on the finish, you just have these two warring factions of chocolate. You know, you get like a semi-sweet kind of chocolate flavor. And then you get this like dark chocolate, like cocoa powder kind of flavor on the tail end. And they butt against each other. I could see this as more of a sipper. Like, this isn't something I'd want to just be tossing back and tossing back and tossing back. But having sips of it and, you know, maybe, you know, sitting back after a long day or on the weekend or something and just kind of sitting back, taking a drink, kind of thinking about your day, reading a book maybe or something. This would be a really great beer for that. Again, I don't know how many people these days sit back and read books. But if let's equate it to those people that don't read books. If you're sitting back, you can watch a football game. You can watch an XFL game because there's like no offense going on. You could sit back and kind of watch that and just get lost in this Barrel Aged Narwhal. This is one that I would definitely put my recommendation behind. I would go out and pick this up again in an instant. But I'm really happy that I have a 4-pack. I can kind of sit and not necessarily nurse, but I can sit back and I can enjoy the 4-pack for what it is, and I don't feel rushed. It's going to take me a little bit to finish that 4-pack. But if you had buddies, this is something that I would definitely share with somebody that hasn't had this before. This is a really great example of a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout. I almost would say this is like the gold standard. This would be something that I've tried a lot of bourbon barrel-aged stouts. This is something that I would want to try and say, maybe not give it to somebody as their first beer because that would almost ruin all other bourbon barrel-aged stouts afterwards. But I think on its own, this is a really great beer. And maybe after somebody's worked their way through those barrel-aged stouts, this is a really good benchmark to say, you like barrel-aged stouts? Have you ever had this one before? If not, give it a shot. All right, friends, that has been Barrel Aged Narwhal from Sierra Nevada. Have you tried this one or maybe even the non-barrel aged version before? Do you have any other beers you'd suggest I try? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell because I'm here talking about beer twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's all for free for viewers just like you. And you might miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries wherever they are. And most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.